Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today I'm coming at you here and I want to talk about Inquisitors. And this is a shout out for Rabid Beaver. Just kinda, I was looking at his roster last night, he got a review given to him by Dank Ideals. And he is saying how he had to build Inquisitors for his guild, he's like in their trash and he's not looking forward to it. And this was kind of exacerbated by kind of the situation that he was in where he had Rey unlocked, Relic 7, and then Ben Solo and Commander Tano were both 7-star, but very low gear, no Zetas, and now he's working on Inquisitors. And I was even having trouble telling him to go for Inquisitors because of how good Ben Solo and Commander Tano are. And it's been bothering me, so I gave it a lot of thought, and I kind of want to change the way you guys think about Inquisitors, and we're going to look at them from a brand new perspective. And the way I want you guys to start thinking about Inquisitors is just what they can do for you, because I think more often than not what I see players make a mistake on is they don't recognize that Inquisitors are really, really solid, and that a lot of their hate, I would even say, is outdated. I know with Riva they're really, really good, but even without Riva, they are solid. So we're going to talk about Inquisitors today. Like and subscribe, comment down below, let me know your thoughts. Channel members, guys, I know, I've been really failing you all. It's just been I've had a lot going on. I don't know how else to say it. I don't try to get too personal on the channel. It's just had a lot of stuff going on. Been a really busy time, so just been trying to get content out to you guys, and unfortunately other things have had to fall by the wayside. So let's kind of continue talking about these Inquisitors and why they're so much better than you think. So I want to go to Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes.gg. And as you guys can see here, I just went into, and we're in season 50. So I'm going to go back to season 48. And this would be before the Empire Datacron was here with the 400% defense. Look at the most popular counters right here. Look at the top 4 counters. You've got Traya, General Grievous, CLS, and Traya. So I mean, you're talking the expensive Traya team here, right? Like, you're talking, we're throwing Darth Talon, and then you look down here, again, and you're saying, oh, well, Phil, look at these win rates. Like, they're all really good. Yeah, it's good win rates, but you guys talk about this team like they're terrible. If somebody's going to use Commander Luke or, like, Grievous is the only team here that I would say is walking away with something decent. But, like, I would love for you to use your Traya or CLS against this Inquisitor team. And as you keep going down, you see people are using Riva and Adrad and General Skywalker against these guys. Like, that's a massive trade. That's a really, really good trade for you. And then what I want to do is kind of go up to the, if we go back up here to season 50, right, the current season that we're in. And all of a sudden you start seeing that you need to have, again, some of those similar counters coming in, a lot more people using Adrad, General Grievous, again, still kind of up at the top here. You're seeing a lot more people using the Phoenix team. Like, those are all good wins, right? Like, I would say the Grievous is the only one that's kind of like, that's maybe not quite as good of a trade. But take into consideration, this General Grievous team here also beats Starkiller. So take that with a grain of salt there, right? And you're not seeing this. This is in Kyber. You're not seeing this that many times. So you got to think a lot of these kind of instances, you're going to have players with good mods on them, right? So, I mean, this is good information for you, because I think so often you guys look at Inquisitors and you're like, gosh, they're terrible. People don't know how to really beat these guys on defense without kind of overkilling them. There's not really that sweet spot where, yeah, you're going to get consistent wins all the time. I mean, it's awesome to see this, and hopefully it gives you guys a little bit more encouragement to build them, because before you get Riva, you're like, what am I supposed to do with them? Like, before Grand Inquisitor, yes, they're not good, but once you get Grand Inquisitor, they're still a very solid team. And then of course you get Riva, right? So we go up here and we're just gonna add in Riva, right? Because she's kind of the holy crap, what are we supposed to do? Now, this current season is not a good indication, because you've got to think about the Datacron, where you're primarily looking at Traya, Jabba, Malgus. Like, that's not quite as accurate. But you go back a couple of seasons, and you've got, a Phoenix team beating them. Traya, Malgus still looking at it. General Skywalker lower. But you see with Riva, all of a sudden, they're shooting up, right? They're shooting up, and they're doing some really, really good things. The other side to the equation here with Inquisitors that I don't know that gets talked about enough is if we go back to the game. All right, I want to go back to the game for this. One of the things with Inquisitors that's really, really helpful is that you have Riva, you have Grand Inquisitor, and then you have all these other guys. So you can make some pretty solid teams. Like you could make a Grand Inquisitor, 7th sister, 9th sister team, and then a 3rd sister, 8th brother, 5th brother type team. I mean, you could do that. I wouldn't recommend it because like you're kind of, how would I say it? You know, that's one where if you're on the lower end of GP, right? If you're at the lower end of GP and you've got like, I would definitely make that split because a lot of people are going to have more trouble going after Riva. They're not going to have the off meta counters to kind of deal with those two teams because it is weaker. At the top end of GAC, more often than not, you're going to want to use Riva, Grand Inquisitor, and 7th Sister, and then just kind of throw the rest of them to the side. But I think like in a lot of those earlier stages, and I think you guys are getting Riva earlier and earlier as guilds make that push and rise of the Empire sooner and sooner. You can split these up to make two pretty solid Grand Arena defense and or offense teams that will be a lot of stuff. And so I want to encourage you guys that this is not a trash team. I know the popular answer here is they're trash, but they're not. They are one that consistently get you good wins. And when you go back to that GG page and you think about it, like, oh, well, they were using CLS and they get good banners. One of the things you have to think about that I try to really encourage you is when a team like Inquisitors is on defense and you use your CLS to beat them, it's going to force them to have to do different counters on other teams, right? So oftentimes what I will say is that there are certain teams in your defense that get you holds, even if they weren't the one to generate that hold. Let me go back to, I can even show you, like, this is a great example here in, against House of Cards, right? My last GAC. I actually live streamed this against him, so if you guys want to check that out, it was really cool. But, so he set Jabba here. Jabba did not get a hold. But do you know what this battle on Jabba did? It forced me to drop a battle up here. And then, really, it kept me from clearing. But it also forced me to drop a battle against, you know, like, not be able to clear Riva. Had Jabba not been there, I would have been able to clear Riva just fine. So there's just an example. I know I'm like showing Inquisitors there, but if I go back to even like my first round here against Nameless, one of the things that you'll see is, I don't think it was on this wall. I think it was the other wall up here. So my opponent here, dropped against Rey. Yeah, so they dropped against Rey. That's right. Dropped against Rey. But they one-shot Lord Vader here. Right? One-shot Lord Vader. But when you go to the back wall, oops, misclick here. Let's go back in. Sorry, guys, clicking all over the place, you're getting sick. So, Zori got a hold. The hold from Zori here was probably brought on by one of the teams on my front wall. I'm not sure exactly which one. Maybe it was even brought on by Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, that you set certain teams on defense with the idea that it's going to drive holds for you, that it's going to drive wins. You know, it's one of those situations where, like, even House of Cards said it, that on his front wall, what he's been doing, at least this round, sorry, spoil his strategy, but that he's placing Saw and he's placing Finn, which are Afra bait. And then with Jabba on that back wall, he's trying to pull out their Dr. Afra, and then they get to the back wall, and now they've got to contend with Jabba, which is a really great strategy. So the idea there is that his Finn and his Saw Gerrera teams are the ones that are actually earning the holds that some of the other guys get because you're using teams here that you need to clear something else. So I want to kind of use that and have you think about that with Inquisitors. That, yes, maybe your Grand Inquisitor isn't getting holds, but it's because nobody wants to mess around with it. Nobody's going to try and undersize it. Nobody's going to try and beat it with something small. Instead, they're going to go ahead and try and, you know, they're going to overkill it, and then they're going to get to maybe your 501st, where they've already used their CLS, so now they bring in Treya, and then you set a Dash Rendar team that they don't know how to beat or something, that you get them to use teams that they would need for other counters, and that's kind of all part of how you use Inquisitors, I think, at the end of this, is that you want to use this faction to pull out teams that you don't want them to have available for you. So I love setting these guys on, I think they're a great front wall team, because it gets your opponent kind of thinking about them right away. They overkill it, or they drop a battle, right? That's kind of like the Inquisitor mantra, is like you overkill it or you end up dropping, and it's infuriating. So I want to encourage you guys to build this team. They're a lot better than you think. So hopefully this video was informative, because I didn't want to show you guys all this is how you use them, because I think everybody knows how to use these guys. We've seen them all in action. What I don't think we've necessarily ever heard is maybe this side of the equation, that they draw out teams to get you wins. And I think that's the most important thing that you can do in Grand Arena sometimes. That just because your Rey or Jabba got the hold doesn't mean that they were necessarily the reason that the hold happened. That, hey, your Lord Vader ate up there, they had to use Bo-Katan against that, and that left here, or this or that, right? That certain teams drive holds because your opponents will overkill them or use up counters early, and then later on down the road they mess up. So that's the end of the video. Let me know your thoughts. I love you all. May the Force be with you, and build your friggin' Inquisitors. If you're still watching right now, go ahead and say that Fat Phil convinced me to build this faction, even though Reva's probably the worst written character in all of Star Wars, and that includes Rose Tico. So maybe put that in the comments. I don't know. I love you all. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Cheers.